Hello and welcome to Let Love Flow, a workshop on giving up the struggle. It's great that you're here. And thank you to those of you who are my clients already who've come along for this workshop, and welcome to those of you who are new. Very briefly, because I know some of you know me quite well, my name's Catherine Baldwin and I'm a love, dating and relationships coach. I'm the author of this book, How to Fall in Love, a 10-Step Journey to the Heart. And I host love retreats in the UK and abroad. And I also host courses, How to Fall in Love, Laying the Foundations, and Date with Courage, Clarity and Confidence. Small group courses for small groups of women, and I'll speak about those a little bit later. That's the sort of surface description of me, but the reason why I'm doing this workshop is because of the deep stuff that I have gone through to get to where I am, and it's all about the struggle and letting go of the struggle. So it's about letting go of control and allowing love into our lives. And when I finally learned to do this, everything changed. So as some of you know, I was single into my early 40s. I was dating online, and I know what it feels like to struggle with online dating and face-to-face dating. Probably not as much as you who have been trying to date in coronavirus pandemic. But I do know what it's like to struggle and feel like, gosh, are all the good people taken? Why do I always attract the same sort of people? How do I write messages to people? When do I meet them? How soon do I meet them? So I know what that's like. And I also know what it's like to let go of the control, to understand myself and my patterns, and to change my dating dynamic and to date differently, and ultimately to fall in love. So as many of you know, I got married 2 years ago to someone I never thought I would get married to, but with whom I'm absolutely delighted and love spending every minute of the day with him. So where possible, he has gone back to work after furlough. But so it is possible to change our dynamic. But I know some of you, because you're in my groups, are struggling right now with all the online dating, with a lot of questions of how to connect with people, how to find people, what to say to people, how soon to express our wishes in a dating relationship, and so forth. And also knowing whether you're ready. Am I ready? Do I have the foundations? Am I still too scared? Am I still craving? Am I dating with a craving? So we're going to look at some of those questions. But I just want to say at this moment, that I'm not a miracle worker in your life, but you are. So I believe that I've worked miracles in my life. I never expected to be married. Well, I did want to be married, but I just thought it would never happen. But I didn't think I'd be married, living by the beach in Dorset, swimming in the sea, running this business. I used to work in Parliament as a political journalist. I burnt out, I broke down, I was stressed. I was exhausted. I had no time to date. I dated all the wrong people. I hurt myself. I hurt others. I was scared. I avoided dating for a long time. And then it changed, and my life changed, and my relationship happened. So I feel like I've been through pretty much, well, a lot of the things that many of the people who come to me or work with me have also been through. And that's why I'm here, because I believe I can help. So let me just say briefly how this workshop will work. So I will speak for around 35 to 40 minutes. We will have, there will be participation. So I will ask you to write things in the chat, and you don't have to. You can write directly to me, or you can write to everyone. The chat won't be visible to people watching on recording. You don't have to. If you don't want to do that, you can write things down in your notebook. And the Q&A will follow, and there will be a recording of the Q&A as well. Prior to the Q&A, I'll just tell you a little bit about my courses, my wonderful How to Fall in Love and Date with Courage, Clarity and Confidence courses. And then at the end, within an hour, I will switch the recording off and invite you to come on screen if you would like to, and say hello and ask any other questions that you don't want to ask on the recording. When you ask your questions on the recording, it will be in the chat. Okay, so that's how it works. So what I'd like you to do now is become present if you're not already. So we're just gonna tune in to ourselves and feel what's going on inside so that we can know what we're dealing with. So I'd like to invite you, if it's safe to do so, to close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, just allow your body to relax. Allow your shoulders to relax. And just feel your body sinking into wherever you are sitting. And to help yourself to relax, tune into your breath. If you notice you're breathing quickly, deliberately slow down your breath. So I've got my hands placed over my chest, my heart space, and across my chest, and you might want to do the same. So if you'd like to place your hands there on your chest, if you prefer, you could place them on your tummy. Somewhere where you can be aware of the way your body moves with your breath. And if your hands are over this heart space, imagine you're looking inside. And I'd like you to think about this area of your life, love, the love area of your life. So think about self-love, think about dating, romantic love, healthy relationships. And what feelings come to mind when you think about this area of your life, about love? What can you connect with? What can you connect with when you think about love? If nothing comes, that's fine. Just try and stay with me, with my voice, and with your breath. We're trying to become conscious of how we are feeling. Allow your breath to take you deeper. And maybe think about going a layer deeper. What are the deeper feelings when you think about love? It might be excitement, hope, pain, grief, loss, loneliness, panic, desperation, happiness. You might get a warm feeling, See what comes up for you. So I'm going to start wrapping this up now, but remember, you can use this tool of self-connection at any point. You can allow your breath to lead you inside yourself. So you can have a look around inside your heart, see what's going on. So take a few deep breaths. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And I'd like to invite you to write, if you'd like to, in the chat, anything that came up for you there. You can write to me or to everyone. If you write to me, I won't say your name. And just as you're doing that, I'll just share what came up for me when I thought about love. In my case, I thought about my mum, who some of you know died in January. So I got in touch with some grief, which is interesting because if I don't pause, if I don't stop, if I'm always busy, rushing, I don't know that that grief is there. I don't connect to it. I avoid it. And as you'll have heard me say, we have to feel it to heal it. So if our feelings get stuck inside us, we can't heal them. And then they sabotage us. They sabotage our relationships. They sabotage mainly our relationships. They sabotage our happiness. So they come out sideways in anger or rushing or adrenaline or prickliness. So this is why it's important to slow down and connect. And it's so important to slow down and connect like this when we are looking for a healthy relationship. So many of the questions that come up in my groups around this are, how do I know? How do I know if this person's right for me? How do I know what to say or when to say it on a date? Someone is putting pressure on me. Should I go along with it or should I not? And, I profoundly believe that you have the answers and you have them deep inside yourself. And if you pause, connect to yourself and your intuition and understand what's going on. And a lot of my work is really deep because I believe that that's where the answers are. So we might want to ask ourselves inside, what's really going on for me? We might want to ask our inner child. So some of you will be conscious of the concept of inner child. Some of you may not, but that's your little person, the little you who lives inside, who might react to things, who might feel afraid, feel scared, feel anxious, who we want to connect with and we want to soothe. So this is why it's so important to pause like this and to stop and to feel in order to heal. Because for many of us, the blocks and obstacles in our relationships, especially our romantic relationships, come down to the pain that we are carrying that then gets worked out in our relationships. So as many of you know, it's in the first chapter of my book. I spent decades disconnected from my feelings, binge eating, compulsively exercising, running, working like crazy, always adrenalized, didn't pause, didn't stop, didn't feel. And then I tried to date with a complete disconnection to myself, a complete disconnection to my feelings, not having a clue what my intuition was saying. And if I could hear it, deliberately ignoring it because I didn't like what it was saying. It wasn't giving me the right answers. So this is why it's so important to connect to ourselves and feel our feelings. So I'm just going to have a brief look. Thank you for those of you who've answered. Frustration, Somebody saying that the person they meet will be their best friend and it will feel easy and natural. And then some anxiety beneath that. So that's nice to have the combination. I think anxiety is normal for many of us, depending on where we come from, but the hope is also important. Loss and loneliness, anger at oneself, excitement and hope. And someone thinks that romantic love is for others. How to let love in and have a healthy relationship, looking for someone who isn't unavailable. Okay, well, thank you so much. And I hope by participating there and by being here, you know that you're not alone. It's really difficult to feel that we're on our own with our struggles and our problems, which is why I run my courses with small groups of women, because the connection and the identification and the way we relate to each other is so healing and important. So you are not alone. So thank you for sharing that. There'll be another opportunity to participate shortly. So I want to share, let me just see where I am for time, because I do tend to go on. I want to share my Let Love Flow framework with you. And it's quite simple and it's deep. So simply it goes like this: you love yourself, you love your life, and you find love. So that sounds simple. We're going to break it down. And I know this is all about giving up the struggle, because I believe that we can give up the struggle. However, on our journey to giving up the struggle, we might have to go deep. We might have to do more work on ourselves. And I can hear you saying, I've done loads of work on myself already. And I get it. I've done 20 years of work on myself, and I still work with a coach, and I still work with a therapist, and I'm always exploring and discovering. And I'm very supported by people in my life because I need it. So it will depend on where you've come from. But we might need to do some unearthing of things that get in our way, and hopefully we'll do a little bit of that today. So yeah, talking about self-love, and I know you know all about self-love. If you scroll through Instagram, everyone's talking about it. I'm going to talk about it too, and I'm going to encourage you to really to be really transparent and honest with yourself. So for me, there's a spectrum. There's self-harm over here and there's self-love over here. And I spent quite a lot of time over on the self-harm side of the spectrum: addiction, binge eating, binge drinking, sleeping with unavailable men, harming myself through overwork, compulsive work. So that's quite extreme. Not all of you will have been over this side of the spectrum. Well, what I'm interested in is this gray area in the middle, because, loving ourselves completely, we're never going to be doing that unless you're amazing, in which case, come and tell me how you do it. Loving ourselves all the time, it's pretty difficult to achieve. And also, this isn't about achieving perfection. This is about having the solid foundations to achieve love, to find love, to be open to love, achieve love. I don't like the idea of achieving love, to be open to love. So, it's about the foundations, and, that's why the way I run my courses, it's the foundations first, and then we date with courage. But we don't have to be perfect, but we do need to pay attention to the middle, to the gray area that doesn't really feel like self-harm, but actually is and might be blocking us from a healthy relationship. So some subtle ways in which we harm ourselves. I wonder if you can relate to any of these. We say yes when we mean no. Or maybe we say no when we mean yes, but mostly we're saying yes when we mean no. We say yes to things, we people please, we agree to do things because we're afraid of the other person's reaction. We behave in a certain way to to find a reaction in the other person, or to, what's the word I'm looking for? To produce a reaction in the other person. Perhaps we allow ourselves to be pushed around by others. Perhaps we have squishy boundaries. I love that word, squishy. So I've got a whole chapter on boundaries in my book and on my course. So boundaries are so important when we're looking for a healthy relationship. They're so important in all areas of our lives. So, one of the questions that came up when I was prepping for this course was around dating someone who seemed to be incredibly intense, too intense. So you've got one person pushing, and you might be trying to slow them down a little bit. So when we allow people to push us or to overstep our boundaries, then we are letting ourselves down. And at the extreme, we are harming ourselves. And also we're giving a false picture to that person of who we are and what we want. So even if that relationship did continue, it's not based on truth. It's not based on us being truthful to ourselves. The other way in which we harm ourselves is by overriding our intuition. I know this really well. I do it all the time. So we might have an intuitive thought that comes to us. We might get that tap on the shoulder, that feeling in our tummy that says, do this, go this way, don't do that, don't go out with him, don't go out with her. That person isn't right for you, but we override it. And we override it for a number of reasons. Perhaps we want to be liked, we want to be loved. Perhaps we are operating with a craving, we're dating with a craving, which means we have this deep yearning and longing inside us for love, affection, touch, which is entirely normal. Of course we do. Of course we do. But sometimes that deep yearning is huge because of our past. Because we missed out on stuff when we were young, because we didn't get all the loving and nurturing and support that we needed. And we're still desperately trying to find that in our adult lives. And eventually we learn the hard way, normally, that we have to give up the struggle to get what we didn't get when we were a child. So if I can relate that to my own life, as I've mentioned, my dear mum passed away recently, and because of her own struggles, she wasn't able to give me what I needed when I was a child, which set me up with a hole inside, which I then went to fill, and I filled it with food and drink and work and achievement and accolades and men and sex and then, I healed and healed and healed, but I have to heal this every day. I have to know every day if I am operating, if I'm still trying to get what I didn't get. So who am I making in my life? Who am I turning into my mother? Or my father, because he was also sadly quite distant. So who am I turning into those people? Is it my boss? Is it a client? Is it a family member? Am I trying to get from them what I didn't get when I was a child? Is it a date? Is it a partner? Now, I don't want to, you have all already, I know, done some work on yourselves. So this isn't about becoming perfect. It's not about becoming the perfect person before we try dating. It's about having awareness. It's about being conscious. It's about mindful dating rather than mindless, which is what I used to do. So when we override our boundaries, when we ignore our intuition, it's often because we are still trying to get something. So we're struggling for love, for approval, for validation, for acclamation, for something that we didn't get when we were young. And if we can know that and be aware of it, then we can modify our behavior. So we can go on a date and we can notice that oh my gosh, I'm craving, and this person's really attractive and I want to touch them instantly. we can check in with ourselves, and then, ideally we'll be supported on this journey. And we'll be able to step back. Maybe we'll be able to connect with people who are supporting us on this journey, which is why my groups work so well, because we support each other. And we'll be able to modify our behavior so that we won't get ourselves into trouble. So I know all about getting myself into trouble by dating with a craving, ending up in relationships and sort of waking up the next morning, maybe in bed with somebody, thinking, hang on a minute, how did that happen? I'm in a relationship. Or staying too long in a relationship where the person is unavailable. And I know this question of availability comes up all the time because it's a common problem, the looking for or ending up with unavailable people. And, as hard as it was for me to accept, I had to accept that I was dating or ending up with unavailable people because there was a level of unavailability within myself. There was a level of fear. There was a level of commitment phobia within myself. So it was very easy for me to date these unavailable people because I didn't have to commit. I didn't have to face my fear. So, I'm all about championing ourselves, and also becoming entirely honest with how we are on the inside and what support we might need in order to have a healthier relationship with ourselves, overcome our obstacles to commitment. So have a think about where you fall on that spectrum of self-harm to self-love. Have a think about where you are with your boundaries, and whether you relate to saying yes when you mean no, whether you give away yourself, your time, and how this impacts on you and on your romantic life. And if you'd like to comment, please do so in the chat about anything I've just said in that part about, where are you on the self-harm, self-love spectrum? How open are you to love? How are your boundaries? Are they squishy? Are they boundaries, or are they walls? So have a think about those things. And if you would like to comment, please do. And I'm going to move on to the next bit. So it's about, okay, somebody says that their boundaries have become walls. And this is why we soften. So, there's a module in my foundations course, which is about softening, which is a really important part of the process. How can we soften our boundary? How can we soften our walls? And we have walls because there'll be some stuff inside us that we haven't processed. There'll be some pain that we haven't healed. So there'll be some healing to do there. Somebody says they find it hard to work out if I'm being abused and used or not. Gosh, yeah, I hear you. And that comes down to what we did right at the beginning. And well, two things really. One is that we connect with ourselves and our intuition, and we have to do this every single day, meditation, journaling, those things, and also not doing it alone. We don't have to do this alone. So finding support, coming on one of my courses, belonging to one of my groups, not doing it on your own. So let me just have a look. Yeah, it's hard to express our truth when it might be difficult for others to hear. Absolutely. And this, or it could offend them. And this comes down to what I was talking about in terms of, I have this too. I grew up with a fear of anger. And I grew up with this idea that if I expressed my truth, I might die. Now that sounds extreme, but let me explain. So when we're small, we depend on our caregivers, our parents, our caregivers for our very survival. And if I express my truth to a parent and that parent responds with anger or dismissal or, you know, says that my truth isn't true, then if they're angry with me, I am dependent on them for my survival. So it feels life-threatening to express my truth. That's how it is for me. So it's taken me years to find the courage to express my truth, especially if it's gonna hurt somebody, offend them, let them down. But it is possible. It is possible. Squishy boundaries, too vulnerable. Yeah, so the message we send out, you know, you'll have heard me say in the book and elsewhere that we teach people how to treat us. We teach people how to treat us by the way we treat ourselves and by the message we give as to how they can treat us. So if we, you know, if we give too much of ourselves online, or when we meet, if we allow someone to touch us or kiss us before we're ready, or if we allow someone to speak to us sexually online before we're ready, then that's our boundary that we have allowed them to overstep. And then we end up with this false dynamic where they think we like speaking like that, or they think we like to be touched when we're not ready. And that's a false relationship. So, you know, this is difficult because, as I've said before on other webinars, you know, when we get close to a romantic relationship or to a person we find attractive, everything we learned on my courses in coaching, on your entire self-development journey goes out the window for at least for a few minutes when we just like melt. And that happens. And that's why we need the strongest foundations and loads of support so that we don't expose ourselves to harm and hurt. Too nice to people. Yeah, expressing ourselves when the behavior is unacceptable. So, so you can see you're not alone. You are not alone in your struggles to maintain boundaries, to set boundaries. You know, I have them too. It was only through working on my boundaries that I was able to have a healthy relationship with myself and then with another. So thanks for those comments. So I'm going to move on, carry on chatting if you'd like to, and I'll check in the chat in a moment. Okay, love your life. This might sound easy too, but you know, for me, it was a major part in my journey to love. Now, let me say again, your life doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be living the dream in order to find love. When I found love, I was still living in my flat in London. I hadn't moved to the beach, to the sea. I didn't really know what I was doing with my career. I'd quit my journalist job. I had let go of, I burnt out and broke down in that job. I'd let go of another job that was making me miserable. So so my life wasn't perfect at all, but I was setting intentions and taking actions. So I had set an intention, I'd written it on my blog that I wanted to move to the sea. I knew I wanted to move to the sea. I had started my blog, which was about reconnecting with myself as a writer, sharing my truth, starting this work. So this was 10 years ago, starting doing this work, this coaching work, this healing work on, you know, with women. So I had started to live a different life. I had also reconnected with all the things that I loved and that I'd forgotten about when I lived in London. So I got on my bike a bit more. I left London, I went to the countryside and camped and joined groups and went hiking and did all these things. So, you know, this is about your life. Are you living an authentic life? Do you have your sights on a more authentic life, and are you taking steps towards that life? And this is important because when we're authentic, we attract people who are authentic too, and who like us for who we are, not for this job that we're doing or this life we've constructed that isn't true to us. Also, in terms of your work, is there enough time to think about your romantic life, your personal development? That was a thing for me in my previous job. There wasn't enough time. So are you living your authentic life? And this comes down to dating in the right pool. So I appreciate that because of the pandemic, face-to-face dating hasn't happened very often over the last year, but you know, it's often about asking, am I dating in the right pool? Now, when I worked in Parliament, I was looking for a journalist like me, a sort of high flyer kind of person who was adrenaline junkie, or a lawyer or a doctor. And that's because that's who I was back then. But that wasn't the true me, I discovered, because as I went on my journey, I am a softer person. I want to let go of my adrenaline addiction. I want to work in this, well, I am working in this sphere of coaching and personal development, and I want to work at my own rhythm and live by the beach and have more time. And it turns out that that was the true life I wanted to live. And when I started making inroads into that life, that's when I met my now husband. So, are you living your authentic life? Is your work keeping you single? Um, and what steps can you take to live your authentic life? So, just have a little think about those questions. Um, and if you can, if you'd like to, just briefly, because I want to move on to the next section, just answer that question. Are you living your authentic life? Or what steps are you taking to live a more authentic life, to feel happier in your life? Are you doing the things you love? And as lockdown ends in the UK, if you're in the UK or elsewhere, what steps are you taking to broaden and expand your life? Or what steps can you take? So have a think about that. And if you have any ideas, okay, there's a question here about where did I meet my husband? So yeah, I think how did I meet my husband is important. I met him in Cornwall. In a house that we were renting for the weekend. But I met him because I had reconnected with my love of the great outdoors, my love of camping, and my love of going to music festivals and hanging out with friends, all of which I'd lost for a bit during years of burnout and depression in London. So I reconnected with a friend, went to a music festival. She connected me with another friend. Friend invited me to Cornwall for a weekend. And my husband was a member of that gang, her gang, and he was into cycling and camping and outdoorsy stuff. So I met him on a bank holiday weekend in Cornwall, and we bonded over cycling and beach walks. Yeah, so you can take steps towards your authentic life. Beginning to know what you want. This also sends out an energy. It sends out an energy to others that even if you don't know exactly where you want to be or what you want to do, you are interested in finding that out. But if you do know, then you're taking action in that area of your life. And this sends out an energy. It shows people that you're not just looking for a relationship to fix you, that you are interested in a fuller life, that a relationship is one segment of your pie, one piece of your pie. And in the rest of the pie is friends and fun and art or creativity or dancing or cycling or camping or whatever it is that you love doing. So it sends out a signal. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Progress, not perfection. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the final section, which is about finding love, which is what we've been talking about all the way through this webinar. And, if you know my work, you know that I always think we need to go deeper and dig deeper. So I can answer, and I will try to answer questions about, online dating and what to say and when to say it. I can offer those suggestions, but I believe that you have the answers and it's about connecting with your intuition. B, I believe that if you follow this framework, loving yourself, loving your life, that you will find love. I absolutely believe that. It might sound simple, but when it comes to this find love segment, there might be some obstacles that you have to overcome. And I just want to notice in the chat, working too hard, giving our all to our work leaves no time for our romantic life, all the things that we love. But I know that I know that you are taking steps to change that. Progress, not perfection, small steps each day. Yes. And yeah. And, when I run my group calls, and, I have to find a time for the group calls, and it's very difficult to find a time that suits everyone. But it is about making time and space. It is about making time and space for this area of our lives. So finding love. Now, I haven't got time to go through the whole process of this third segment. This is what we look at on my courses and in my one-to-one coaching and retreats and so forth. But I do want to dig deep in something. And it is about your fears. It's about your fears. So as you know, I love this topic. I love this topic of our fears and our relationship patterns. So in order to find love, we must become conscious. We must become aware of our fears, because they are what sabotaging our relationship. And we talked a little earlier about the fear of speaking our truth, the fear of setting boundaries, the fear of being honest, the fear of taking leaps in our lives, the fear of changing our work patterns, all these fears, and they affect our lives, they affect our ability to date and have happy relationships. So I've just noticed a comment, scary but brilliant, someone who's applied for a course and have asked their work to support them and to achieve career change. And scary but brilliant is exactly where we want to be. This is your comfort zone, and this is where the magic happens. So we have to get out of the comfort zone. And, I run this business and I do these webinars. So every single day I have to make uncomfortable actions. And my therapist tells me that my healing is measured by the number of uncomfortable actions I take every day. So why not take that on board? Your healing, your recovery, your journey to love is based on the number of uncomfortable actions that you can take each day. I'll leave that with you as a challenge. Right, I just want to talk about fear, your fear. So I would like you to think about one fear that you might have about dating, about relationships, about finding love. I'd like you to share it in the chat. And if you have awareness, I'd like you to connect that with one of your dating patterns. So a classic example of this is I have a fear of commitment. So I fear intimacy and commitment, and therefore my pattern is that I'm going to avoid intimacy and commitment at all costs, which is why I ended up dating men who were afraid of commitment, unavailable, emotionally unavailable, living on a different continent, alcoholics, married to their work, because it suited me, not to have to walk through my fear. Now, thankfully, because of all the work I have done on myself and everything that I write in my book and on my courses, I have managed to overcome my fear of commitment and get married, which is a massive deal for someone who comes from a place of fear of commitment. But fear of commitment shows up in other areas of my life, and I still have to work on that. So can anyone name a fear that, if you think about love, if you think about dating, if you think about finding love or staying in love, what fears do you have? Okay, let's have a look. Fear, and I'm inviting you to comment, and I'm reading these comments because you are not alone, and I want you to know that you are not alone. That your fears are common, and they're common to me. That's not to diminish them, because they're very important, but they're common, and they're common to me. And I have overcome many of them, and the others I'm a work in progress. So I ask you to share these to give us all hope. So fear of that I'm not good enough, and I will get found out because I become too needy. And that's a real fear. And we can diminish that fear, we can lessen that fear by doing all this self-love stuff and really believing that we are good enough, doing the things that we do on my courses. So understanding, where does that fear come from? Where did I pick that up? What has it done to me? Why am I hanging on to it? How can I walk through it? Fear of confrontation. So we avoid confrontation, which means not being ourselves. Yeah, I know that. But when we don't walk towards confrontation, we diminish, we become small. We become smaller and smaller and smaller. We become afraid of being ourselves, and that's no basis to have a healthy life, a happy life, or a healthy relationship. And I totally appreciate how hard it is, especially if we've had experiences in the past of confrontation that have led us to feel afraid, or to feel like our lives were a threat. Okay, there's quite a lot here. So there's quite a lot of fears, which is great because we all have them. So losing ourselves in a relationship, making it all about them. So understanding where that comes from. For me, I get that too. And that for me, that would come from this place of needing to please everyone else, desperately needing a relationship in order to be loved. So going from one extreme to the other in my case. So I would avoid relationships completely, or I'd find one and I'd totally enmesh myself, like try and merge with that person because I didn't want that person to leave me. So don't want to find someone who's going to hurt me again following an abusive relationship, or waste time being with someone and then not being able to leave. Gosh, yeah, I hear you. And this all comes from our self-esteem, from our that makes it sound like it's an easy job, but this is, I know you're on this journey. I know you're on this journey to believe in yourself, believe that you are worthy of a healthy relationship, trusting your intuition, walking away from anyone who shows signs of abusing, being an abuser. Fear of rejection. So that came up in one of my questions before this webinar. Just checking the time. Yeah, fear of rejection, fear of an abusive partner. So this is why our boundaries are so important. Well, when we fear abuse, our boundaries are so important, because we teach people how to treat us from day one. So from the first moment you send that message online, you are teaching that person how to treat us. If you are giving too much of yourself, or allowing them to talk to you in a way that you don't like too early, then we are teaching them how to treat us, and that could lead to a relationship that's abusive that we can't get out of. Fear of rejection, I just think about that little girl inside, and for me, that is who is afraid of rejection. And if we can give her all the love, and that's not easy. I know it's a difficult journey, the inner child work. We do it on the course, so it would be amazing if you wanted to do that. Fear of abandonment, choosing unavailable people, fear of the future, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. Again, when I hear abandonment and rejection, I really feel for our little child inside, the little girl or boy inside. If we can connect with her and give her all that she needs. Fear not having my own space and time, I absolutely relate to that. So that was one of my massive fears before I got into a relationship and got married. I wanted to be free all the time. But it's, in my case, it has been amazing. I have my space and time when I want it, and I have the companionship when I want it. Fear of being dependent on someone. So if we can build ourselves up from the inside. So I'm not going to be able to read all these out. You can have a look. Oh, I'm nearly at the bottom, so I'll carry on. Fear of judgment. Yeah. So that, for me, that's a self-esteem thing. It's probably linked to people who judged you in the past, or people you were afraid of their judgment of you. fear of voicing needs and being rejected because of them. Yeah. So I hear that, and I can relate to that, and that there might be a time when you tried to voice your needs in the past and you were rejected because of them. And for me, it's about healing that moment, that time. Fear of having to adapt and losing control. Set boundaries preclude most people. So perhaps that comes back to the boundaries that are walls. So I am going to, well, firstly, I'm going to thank you for being so honest about your fears and for participating and for sharing. And please know that you are not alone, and also that there is hope, because I can absolutely relate to all of those fears. As I've said, some of them I have walked through, to commitment, to marriage, to intimacy, face the fear of giving up my space and time, face the fear of being found out as not good enough, of rejection, of abandonment. Gosh, that one comes up for me quite a lot, all the time, even now. So it is possible to walk through those fears. And we do so with, in my case, well, what I believe is that we do so with others. I've faced a lot of fears in my life, and none of which I faced alone. I have faced with others. So before I go to some more questions, and if you have any questions, please type them in the chat while I'm doing this bit. So I just wanted, some of you are already familiar with my courses, but I want to let you know, those of you who are not, about my courses, and also about, actually, let me just share before I go there. Let me just share some more hope from people like you, women like you, who have walked through their fears. So a client of mine, Fiona, who's taken my How to Fall in Love courses and Date with Courage, Clarity and Confidence, she had these fears, many of which you're talking about. But she says that having been part of a group on my courses and being supported and doing the work, she dated with far greater awareness, and she's now in the early months of a new relationship. And I love the way she describes this. It was like running a race, having had a coach show me how to run effectively, having done the training, and with a bunch of people cheering me on from the sidelines, picking me up when I tripped. It's early days, but I think I've made a healthier choice, and I'm in a relationship with someone I'm not sure I would have considered previously. And then along the way, using Catherine's work and practices, I've heard and supported myself. And whatever happens, I know I will always have that relationship with myself to fall back on, which is so important, because then we won't get stuck in a relationship that we don't want to leave because we're afraid of what will become of us if we leave it. And we'll be okay with rejection because we know we will be okay. So that's from Fiona, who took my courses. And there's another comment here from Alicia, which some of you might relate to. I learned so much and was reminded about things I once knew but given up hope about, or had disappeared under the debris of shattered dreams, like how my self-esteem matters, finding my soft heart under the hardened shell of disappointments in love or life, finding my softness. Looking maybe for the first time ever at my relationship patterns and actually seeing pretty clearly what actually went wrong in past relationships and how to change these patterns and how to build my inner core and self-esteem again, understanding what is really important about a person for me. And in terms of letting love flow, let me just share this from Kate. Alicia did my courses. Kate has done my one-to-one coaching. With Catherine's guidance, I finally dared to fully embrace and love myself and to believe that I am worthy of being loved. Not long after that, I entered into a new relationship. Suddenly, love came naturally to me. So that's the key. Love can flow if we work on our self-esteem, if we get this framework in place. Love yourself, love your life, find love, which involves, sometimes uncovering and healing some of our wounds. And Becky, who did my foundations course, I've eventually allowed myself to open up and trust myself and my now boyfriend, who feels just right. And I will add that that boyfriend is now her husband. I'm now starting to imagine a future for myself with a truly amazing, fun and secure person, which I had never thought possible or experienced. So, and Becky recommends my courses as a place to join with others on a journey of discovery, connection and courage. It will soften, challenge and inspire you. So I'm going to come to your questions in a moment, but in a couple of minutes, I'm just going to share what's going on in the world of my courses. So I have 2 courses, Laying the Foundations. I don't want to share that. I'm just going to close that. So here's my course page, and I'll put that link in the chat. I have a couple of offers available on the self-paced course, either Laying the Foundations or Date with Courage, Clarity and Confidence. I have a £50 off offer on the self-paced courses, not that first one because that's below £50, but on this one or on the self-paced. And if you'd like to join my foundations course, Laying the Foundations, starts early 2021. Now, it's not as early as expected because sadly my mum died and that threw me, obviously. So we're starting, it's due to start on Monday. I might move it a couple of weeks back because, yeah, just to get a really lovely group together. But there's £100 off available on that course. It's a 12-week course. So I'm going to, the details will be in your email follow-up from this call, and I'll also put them in the chat. So yeah, you can see on this course page, you can see what the course involves. You can log in and do a free preview, and then you can watch these testimonials and read some more testimonials. So that's How to Fall in Love, Laying the Foundations, 12-week foundational course, £100 off by Sunday, if you sign up by Sunday. Let me just move that out of the way. And then Date with Courage, Clarity and Confidence. This will start this Monday. This is primarily for women who have already done their foundational work. Now, I haven't got a discount on this course because it's already discounted because it's a follow-on course. But if you've already feel like you've done your foundational work, either with me or with another coach, then this course is for you. Starts on Monday, 7 group coaching calls, which is the same as the foundations course. We have 7 group coaching calls. So this is like this, only you're all on Zoom. And if you want to experience, you're on video. If you want to experience what that is like, hang on for when I wrap up. And because we're going to bring everyone on video if you're still here. So have a look at these courses, and it would be wonderful if you'd like to join. I have the option of booking a free discovery call with me, which you'll find on my catherinebaldwin.com website. So let me put that in the chat. I'll put those courses in the chat, and then yeah, if you'd like to join, I've opened up some free discovery calls, some extra ones over the next few days. Also at the weekend, I don't normally do calls at the weekend, but I've added a few in case anyone is keen to take advantage of the courses starting and the discount. So I need to go back. I need to stop share. And I'm going to come to the questions, and I'm just going to type the course. That's the for all the courses, the self-paced, and then this is for the Laying the Foundations, which, as I say, it's scheduled there to start on Monday, but it might wait. We might wait a few weeks, and then I've got sorry, let me just add the code. Let Love Flow 100 for the foundations, and Let Love Flow 50 for the self-paced. I'll get to your questions in a moment. Let me just add, is the Date with Courage. And there is a question about the price of the Date with Courage. So I just want to be honest. This isn't one of those mega sales pitches, but the course prices will actually be increasing. So this is the final time that I'm running the foundations and the Date with Courage at this price, because these small intimate groups, I believe, are really valuable. So the course will be available at this price, but without the small intimate group. There will be a regular Q&A, but the model will be a little bit different. So the way the course is currently run, there's, the group is 6 to 8 people, and it's really intimate and really small. So I'm afraid the Date with Courage course won't decrease, but I do offer payment plans and so forth. So please get in touch and ask for one of my discovery calls. And the group calls, here's the link to book a discovery call on my website. Yeah, the group calls for each of those courses, the Date with Courage, they might be moving to the Wednesday evening, and the foundations calls are on Wednesday evening. So, okay. Yeah, thank you for your patience. I've run over a little bit, but I'm now going to look at your Q&A, and then I am, oh, Alice says she's done the courses and thoroughly recommends. Feel almost ready today and a million times better than I did before I started them. Oh, thank you. So let me look at your questions. There's a question about how has my husband taken on my fears. Just to say, I'll answer your questions now with the recording, and then I'll switch the recording off and we'll have a chat if you want to stay. So how's my husband taken on my fears and building my relationship with him? The good thing is my husband knew exactly what he was getting before we got together, because he'd been reading my blog since I was 40. We met when I was 40. And so he knew that I was, one of these people who wore their heart on the sleeve, that had some struggles, that was very vulnerable and authentic. And, I talked to him all the time about my fears, like fears that he might leave me, or fears that I'll lose him, or and I know, but the thing is, I have a huge amount of self-awareness now. So 20 years in personal development and studying counseling and psychotherapy and therapy of my own and coaching and so forth. So I have a lot of self-awareness. So I notice when my fears are coming out sideways and I'm sabotaging my relationship, and I notice it quickly, and I notice it in time to change, and to sort of make amends or to change my behavior. So this is what I always say, when we're looking for someone, we don't need to look for the perfect partner, obviously, because he doesn't or she doesn't exist, or they don't exist. We want to look for someone who is emotionally available, as in they have a capacity for intimacy. So when I met my now husband, I had him down as a commitment phobe, definitely commitment phobe. He was 45, lived on his own, tiny flat, just assumed, he was a commitment phobe. It turns out we were probably at the same level of openness to commitment, which we still both needed to do a little bit of work. But he has an extraordinary capacity for intimacy and an extraordinary emotional intelligence. And he just opens and opens and opens the more I open. So that's what we're looking for. Okay. Okay, so this fits with what I've just said. Sorry, just pause for water. One way to walk through these fears once in a relationship is to share openly about them with a partner. Yes and no. So let me clarify. As I've just said, I think openness and emotional vulnerability is really important. However, I think we also need extra support. So I have lots of crazy moments in my life when I am deep in grief or deep in misery, or I've got these crazy thoughts or ideas. And what I tend to do is reach out first to other women who support me, or to my therapist. So my husband isn't always my first port of call with my deepest, darkest fears, because they're massive. And sometimes I need to work them out with others before I bring them to him in a more manageable way, in a more bite-sized chunk. And that's not about being inauthentic. That's about honoring my relationship, not piling not piling it all on him. You know, I think this is one of the dangers of a relationship. I was in a relationship in my 30s. My dad died. I was having huge trauma with my stepmom, and I put it all on the guy I was dating. I needed him to support me, and only him to support me. And I was in therapy, but maybe I was taking a break. I don't know. Or my therapist wasn't as good as my current therapist. But that was too much for the relationship. It broke that, amongst other things, but it broke us. And so I cherish my relationship, and I am honest and authentic in it. And I have huge amounts of support. So that's why, if you've done my one of my courses, you join my alumni community, and you know, I hope to support you in there, and you support each other, and we'll be doing some more calls together coming up. So you know, if you're on a course, you will get a buddy, and I encourage you to stay in touch with that buddy and share with that buddy. And then you have your friends, and you might have a therapist or a counselor or a coach. So yes, share openly with your partner, be vulnerable, and perhaps make sure you are supported elsewhere. Okay. Is attraction instant, or can it develop over time? Emotional connection with a man, but didn't find him physically attractive. I hoped this would come, so I stayed with him 8 months, but it didn't happen. I ended up hurting him. In another relationship, the attraction was there, but the emotional connection, shared values weren't there. Never found both in a relationship. So firstly, I believe you can. I believe absolutely that you can. So stay hopeful. Don't give up. I think attraction can grow over time, but perhaps not over that length of time. So I have a lovely friend who first date didn't fancy him, second date didn't fancy him, third date didn't fancy him. She gave him 5 dates. On the 5th date, she fancied him. So I think sometimes, also in my case, as many of you know, there was a physical attraction, but then there were all these blocks that came in around attraction as well, that he doesn't look like this, and he had long hair at the time, and all these other judgments I made, not just about him and who he was, but about his physicality. And they were my blocks. They were me sabotaging me. So the more we understand ourselves, the more we understand the obstacles we put in our own path, and the more we can the more we can allow the attraction to grow. Now, there's a client of mine who has had you know, difficulties feeling attraction, but as she has understood her inner blocks, her self-sabotage, the way she looks for a reason not to be with the person, the way she runs away from commitment, the attraction has come. So the things that were getting in the way have gone, and the attraction has come. So I did write a blog a while ago, Do We Need to Feel a Spark on the First Date? And I'll share it in our alumni community. I believe that there's a danger if there's a real intense physical connection. It can feel wonderful, but it might be unhealthy. It might be wounded person, wounds fit together really well, like suction brought together, and it feels so powerful and intense, and it's like on Hollywood movies, and it's like, oh, this is what I've finally been waiting for. And then it goes up in smoke, or it blows up, because it's unhealthy with unhealthy. So I think we want to be wary of, you know, well, from my experience, we do want some sort of attraction, but be aware of whether there are blocks in us to finding that person attractive, whether we're looking for fault. So let me just have a look. Yeah, there will be Date with Courage course later in the year, but as I said, I'm rethinking the model. I'm I'm rethinking the model, and it might be different. So as in the course with the really intimate small group, the price will probably increase. There will be a course that's available with Q&A calls with me, but the intimate small group will be a little more expensive. So yeah, thank you for recommending the Foundations course. And yeah, thank you for saying that you love the Foundations course. So I'm just going to come to one question that was sent in, and then I am going to wrap this bit up and bring you onto video. How much have I gone over time? Not too bad, 11 minutes. Yes, and there's a question about the Date with Courage course that's coming up, and I'm in negotiations with the participants to see if we can get a call time that suits everyone, and it might be after work. It might be after work, so I can drop you a line about that, or do drop me an email. Right, whereas my question was about I just want to cope with a question, deal with a question about coping with rejection. It's come up a lot in this group. I believe that I believe that if we want to be in a relationship, there is somebody for us. And I know this came up in a question too. I know it can feel like all the good people are taken. But I don't think I used to think that. I definitely used to think that. And it's not true. It's not true. And also it's a, what's the word? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's about our mindset and allowing ourselves to feel hopeful and optimistic. So, if we can if we can have really solid foundations so that we can go into a relationship. There's a problem with feeling rejected. There's also a problem with feeling scared of rejecting. So we're all very nice people. Some of us are people pleasers. Some of us don't like conflict or don't like other people's anger. So, we can fear both being rejected and the possibility of having to reject. And we will manage that if we can build our foundations. So, and also if we look at dating as two grown adults consenting to gathering information about each other, which is what it is, it's a gathering information process. And if you get information about someone on a message very quickly, I do say give people the benefit of the doubt, but notice the red flags. And if it's a red flag, or if the red flag repeats, then trust yourself, trust your intuition, believe that you have the answers. And I do believe that this is a holistic process. The work that I do is holistic. It is about believing in yourself, knowing yourself, having your foundations. And for me, it goes back to the deep childhood wounds, because that's how it was for me. It was about looking for the love that I didn't get. It was about being afraid of the rejection that I'd experienced. It was about being afraid of the abandonment that I'd experienced. It was about my fear of angering other people because it had felt life-threatening. For me, it's about the deep stuff. And for some of you, it will be too. And that doesn't mean don't go dating. It means go dating supported, go dating with awareness, go dating, with consciousness, conscious dating, understanding your blocks, your obstacles, your struggles, checking in with yourself. Am I afraid? Do I have a craving? Am I fearing rejection? Not waiting till you're perfect either, because I'll end on this, and then I'll pause the recording and we'll stop the recording. We'll switch the videos on. I will end on this, that our hurt happened in relationship. Many of us got hurt in relationships, early ones, childhood ones, teenage ones, adult ones. Our healing happens in relationship too. So don't deny yourself the opportunity to heal by not being in a relationship. And don't harm yourself any further by trying to get into one before you have your foundations in place. You know, we can do it. I did it millions of times, trial and error, got hurt someone else, tears. You know, I did it. We're not, we're human. We're not robots. We do it. But every time I built my foundations a bit more, the relationships got easier. There's a section in my book about turning my ship around, when it all changed, when I stood up for myself, when I set my boundaries, when I believed in what I wanted, when I believed in what I deserved, when I didn't fear rejection, I didn't fear rejecting either. And I set my boundary, and the relationship ended, and I survived, and I went on to find love and get married. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to stop the recording. So if you're watching on recording, thank you. You will receive an email with the codes for the discounts. So that's Let Love Flow 50 for the self-paced course, £50 off. And there's £100 off the foundations course with Let Love Flow 100. That's off the group course. And discovery calls you can find on my website. Yeah, I'll send all that in an email. Thanks for watching. Just going to stop the recording. Bye.